So, now in this lecture we will look into some other components and devices based on optical fiber, and these are basically pulse shaping devices. So, what happens when pulses travel through optical fiber? They get attenuated and they get dispersed. Typical attenuation curve of an optical fiber is like this, and a typical dispersion curve is like this. So, when these pulses are attenuated and dispersed, then periodically we need to reshape the pulses. So, this is how it happens. You have an optical fiber, this is the input optical pulse train, the pulses get attenuated and broadened. So, before we lose any information which is embedded in this pulse train, we need to reshape the pulses, and this is done in a device which is known as repeater. This repeater reshape the pulse train and bring it back to its original form. This repeater consists of an amplifier to take care of attenuation and a dispersion compensator or a pulse compressor to take care of the broadening. These amplification and pulse compression both are preferred to be done in optical domain itself, because by doing everything in optical domain, that is doing all optical processing, we will avoid this cumbersome process of optical to electrical to optical conversion, and also we can work at whatever data rate we want. Okay. So, we want to have amplifier which is in optical domain itself and an optical amplifier which is in fiber geometry itself, because then it is easier to splice the amplifier with the transmission fiber. So, if we use optical fiber amplifiers, then there is no optical to electrical to optical conversion. It can work at high bit rate, and when the bit rate changes, you need not to redesign the amplifier as you will have to do in an electronic amplifier. Second advantage of optical fiber amplifiers is, and particularly of an amplifier which I am going to talk about, which is known as erbium doped fiber amplifier, EDFA. It has got very large bandwidth. In the conventional band itself, its bandwidth is about 40 nanometer, which means that I can use it in WDM system in which you send several wavelengths together simultaneously to send your signal. So, each wavelength works as an independent data channel. So, all these wavelengths can be amplified simultaneously by a single amplifier, because it has got very large bandwidth. Since it is in fiber geometry itself, so you can simply splice this fiber with the telecom fiber with minimum insertion loss, and the noise added by this amplifier is very small. Typically it is 3 to 4 dB. Also, the gain of the amplifier is polarization insensitive. So, how do we amplify this signal in an optical fiber amplifier? We make use of erbium ions in silica glass matrix and do amplification by stimulated emission of radiation, the principle which is involved in the laser itself. So, these erbium ions in silica glass matrix provide amplification of signal around 1550 nanometer wavelength, This is a simplified energy level diagram of erbium ions in silica glass matrix. So, you have these bands here, energy bands. This band corresponds to about 980 nanometer wavelength. Here you can have about 1480 nanometer, and this corresponds to 1550 nanometer. This is short lived band and this is metastable. So, what you do, you use a 980 nanometer wavelength pump to lift atoms from this state to a higher state here, and since these states are short lived, so they decay back to this state very quickly through non radiative transition and populate this level. So, in this way you create population inversion. Now, if large number of atoms are available in this state, then they can decay back to this lower state and give you amplification. How? Because this is metastable state. So, you will have a spontaneous emission which will have a small fraction, and then you have stimulated emission. This stimulated emission will give rise to amplification of the signal at 1550 nanometer wavelength. You can also populate this level by using 1480 nanometer pump. This is a schematic of an EDFA. So, you need to now, what you want to do? You want to amplify signal which lies in this wavelength range with the aid of the pump which provides energy for amplification of signal, and this pump is at 980 nanometer. So, now you need to couple the signal and the pump into the same fiber EDF, which is erbium doped fiber, which provides amplification. So, for that you use WDM coupler, we already talked about that. So, with the help of this WDM coupler, you send both the wavelengths in this erbium doped fiber, where the signal gets amplified, and after amplification you decouple the pump and your signal goes through. This is the amplified signal. In order to avoid any back reflection into the system, you can use optical isolator. So, a simplified model for this amplification of light in EDFA can be given by these two equations, which tell the evolution of the pump and signal intensities with the distance z, the propagation length. So, what we have here? We have a simplified two level model here. This state or this band has been populated via a higher band using, for example, 980 nanometer pump, or directly from here to here using 1480 nanometer pump. So, you create a population inversion. N2 is the number of atoms per unit volume in this band, and N1 is the number of atoms per unit volume in this band. So, the pump intensity and the signal intensity would vary according to this, where dIp over dz is minus sigma Pa N1 Ip. Ip is the intensity of the pump, sigma Pa is the pump absorption cross section. Dis over dz is minus sigma San1 minus sigma Sen2 times Is, where sigma Sa is signal absorption cross section, while sigma Se is signal emission cross section. So, you can see that this dIp over dz would be proportional to the number of atoms here, okay, and what is the intensity of the pump. Similarly, this will depend upon how many atoms are here, okay, and what is the emission cross section and what is the intensity of the signal. So, with this very simple model, I can understand how the intensities of the pump and signal vary and what is the gain of the amplifier. Okay. Although this is very simplified picture just for understanding at elementary level. These are absorption and emission cross sections with respect to wavelength. So, we can see the absorption cross section is like this and emission cross section is like this in the wavelength band near 1500 nanometer wavelength. Apart from this, there is absorption at 980 nanometer wavelength, which is very strong absorption. So, here I can see that in this region my emission cross section is larger than absorption cross section. So, the emission will dominate over absorption and I can readily have the gain. However, in this region I will have to do something very special to obtain the gain. So, these are the different wavelength bands. You have conventional band which is about 35 to 40 nanometer wide. You have long band which is about 60 nanometer wide. So, commercial erbium doped fiber amplifiers are available in these bands, C band and L band, and some special techniques can be used to amplify signal even in the short band. Let us look at typical characteristics of an erbium doped fiber amplifier. Here I show the evolution of pump power, how the pump power varies with the distance in the fiber. What I see here is that the pump power decreases with distance, and it is obvious that because this pump is being absorbed and it provides energy for the amplification of signal. So, as you go along the fiber, the pump intensity will decrease and the signal intensity will increase. These are the curves at different pump powers. So, this is at input pump power 2 milliwatt, input pump power 4 milliwatt and input pump power 6 milliwatt, and that is how their intensity would vary with Z. Then this is the evolution of signal power. So, as you go along the length of the fiber, the signal gets energy from the pump. So, pump energy decreases, but signal energy increases. So, you have the signal power increases with distance. When the pump available is not enough to compensate for losses or to provide the population inversion, sufficient population inversion, then this gets saturated. So, even if you do not consider any losses, but if the pump power is not sufficient to provide you enough population inversion, then gain gets saturated here, and then after that it may even fall, okay, because then the signal gets reabsorbed. This is how the signal gain varies with Z. So, initially the pump is able to provide energy to the signal, so your gain increases. After that it gets almost saturated and then again it decreases, okay, because of signal reabsorption. If you look at the gain at different wavelengths, that is at the gain spectrum, then it looks like this. Okay. This particular characteristic comes from the emission cross section and absorption cross section of the EDFA. So, what we see that at different pump powers the gain of the amplifier varies with wavelength like this. At sufficiently high pump power, I can have gain in excess of 20 dB. If this is a 20 dB line, so I can have gain in excess of 20 dB over a wide range of wavelength. 20 dB means a linear factor of about 100. Then along with the amplification of the signal, this amplifier also adds some noise. What is the noise added and what is the basic phenomenon behind the generation of this noise? Since amplification is provided by stimulated emission, and whenever there is a stimulated emission, it is always accompanied by spontaneous emission. And the radiation emitted by the process of spontaneous emission occupies the entire bandwidth of the fluorescent emission band of erbium ions in silica glass matrix. And since this emission is spontaneous emission, so it is incoherent and it appears in all the directions. So this works as a noise. Now the forward and backward guided modes of the fiber also capture this emission and they get amplified. This amplified spontaneous emission is also known as in short ASE, and basically this is amplified spontaneous emission which leads to noise because it is incoherent and appears in all the directions. So how much is the noise? We can work out the expression from this. For this, if P in is the input signal power and G is the gain of the amplifier, then P out is G times P in. Now our spontaneous emission also gets amplified. So this power in ASE is given by 2 times NSP times G minus 1 times H nu times B0, where B0 is the optical bandwidth for the ASE, which is typically 12.5 gigahertz or about 0.1 nanometer at 1550 nanometer wavelength. NSP is given by N2 over N2 minus N1, which basically gives the inversion factor, tells you how much inversion has taken place in the system, where N2 is the population of upper laser level and N1 is the population of lower laser level. So you can see that if N1 is equal to 0, then this NSP is 1, so there is complete inversion. However, if N2 is equal to 0, then there is no inversion. Then we can define optical signal to noise ratio as OSNR is equal to P out over P ASE. So if I put P out as GP in and P ASE from here, so OSNR will be given by G times P in divided by 2 NSP times G minus 1 times H nu times B naught. For larger gains, much larger than 1, if I talk about 20 dB gain, then G is 100, which is much larger than 1, then G over G minus 1 is approximately equal to 1. Then I can convert this into dB as P in dBm minus 10 log H nu B0, which comes from here, and minus a factor f, where f is defined as 10 log 2 NSP, and this is basically the noise figure. This is basically the noise figure. Typical values are you have input power about minus 30 dBm, input signal power, and this F is typically 5 dB, the noise figure is typically 5 dB. This is EDFA for WDM. You can use the same amplifier for different wavelengths. So, this shows a very exciting and very interesting system which has got a bandwidth of 10 Gbps in 10 channels. So, each channel has 10 Gbps and there are 10 wavelength channels, and this has been carried out over a distance of 1200 kilometer in a fiber link using 11 EDFA in between. So, this is the input spectrum of the signal. So, you have 10 wavelengths, 10 wavelength channels, and after 1200 kilometer fiber using 11 EDFA, this is the output. So, you can see that using WDM you can multiply the capacity of the same fiber many folds. What are the applications? The applications of EDFA are in power amplifiers or booster amplifier. What you can do, before sending the signal into the transmission link, fiber link, you can first boost the signal using an amplifier, then it is known as booster amplifier. You can use it as pre-amplifier to enhance the sensitivity of the receiver. So, before sending the signal to the receiver, you first amplify the signal and then send it to the receiver, then it is used as pre-amplifier. And the most commonly used is the inline amplifier, where you use an amplifier in between. So, here your signal gets attenuated after traveling certain distance through fiber, then you amplify it and then you send it in the next section. So, apart from this EDFA which takes care of the attenuation of pulses, we can also compress pulses using a device which is known as dispersion compensating fiber. We can also change the dispersion characteristics of the transmission fiber to suit our needs. So, let us now study the dispersion management in an optical fiber link. So, we have seen that in a conventional single mode fiber, your zero dispersion wavelength is around 1300 nanometer, about 1310 nanometer. So, at 1310 nanometer you have minimum dispersion, while your minimum attenuation is around 1550 nanometer. So, if you want to take advantage of both the minimum dispersion and maximum attenuation, minimum dispersion and minimum attenuation, then you will have to shift the zero dispersion wavelength to 1550 nanometer wavelength. How we can do this? We know that the total dispersion in a fiber is given by the waveguide dispersion and material dispersion, it is the combination of these two. I cannot do much with material dispersion, I cannot change the characteristics of the material. However, what is in my hands is to change the waveguiding properties of the fiber and change the waveguide dispersion and hence the total dispersion. So, for that, if I make a fiber design something like this, where N1 is this and N2 is this, which gives you delta about 0.75%. In a conventional single mode fiber, this delta is about 0.27%, now it is 0.75%. So, to keep this fiber in single mode domain itself with this enhanced delta, I decrease the radius of the fiber from 4.1 micrometer to now 2.3 micrometer. Then V can be given by this, and if I analyze this fiber over several wavelengths, then I find that at lambda naught is equal to 1100 nanometer, my total dispersion is minus 32. At 1300 nanometer wavelength, in a single mode conventional fiber, it was around between 1 and 2 picoseconds per kilometer nanometer. Now it is about minus 12 picoseconds per kilometer nanometers. However, at 1560 nanometer wavelength, with this design I could bring down the total dispersion to much smaller value, about 2 picoseconds per kilometer nanometers. If I look at the dispersion as a function of wavelength, then I find that the total dispersion is 0 somewhere here, which is around 1550 nanometer wavelength. So, with this design I can change the waveguide dispersion considerably and shift the 0 dispersion wavelength from 1310 nanometer to about 1550 nanometer. So, this is dispersion shifted fiber. So, I can make use of both minimum dispersion and minimum attenuation. However, the price I have to pay is very high value of delta, which of course increases attenuation because you have increased the germanium concentration in the fiber, and also A has become very small. So, you are splicing this with other components gives you much larger loss, and you will have to now work with much smaller dimensions. So, the cost increases, the cost of the components increases. Another way of doing this is that you use the same fiber which is already laid. Okay, millions of kilometer of such fiber is already laid, which is optimized at 1310 nanometer wavelength. So, instead of replacing that fiber, you use that fiber, use that fiber at 1550 nanometer wavelength, let the dispersion accumulate, and after that you compensate for this dispersion. For that you need a dispersion compensating fiber. How does it work? Let us look at it. So, if you look at a conventional single mode fiber, this is the group velocity dispersion of a conventional single mode fiber. You work somewhere here at 1550 nanometer wavelength. So, here what you have that your longer wavelength components travel slower while the shorter wavelength components travel faster. So, as a consequence, an unchirped pulse at 1550 nanometer, if you send through this fiber, then its leading edge gets blue shifted while the trailing edge is red shifted. If I let this pulse propagate through distance L1, then the accumulated dispersion would be dt1 L1, where dt1 is the total dispersion of conventional single mode fiber. So, you input this pulse and in the output you get this. If I now look at this fiber, if I change the design of my fiber in such a way that its group velocity dispersion curve looks like this, then here what I see, the longer wavelength components travel faster and shorter wavelength components travel slower. Then the leading edge of the pulse gets red shifted while the trailing edge gets blue shifted. If I let the pulse propagate through DSF, I am sorry, this has to be corrected, through DCF, if I let the pulse propagate through DCF, dispersion compensating fiber, over distance L2 such that dt1 L1 plus dt2 L2 is equal to 0, where dt2 is the dispersion coefficient of this DCF, dispersion compensating fiber, then this broadened pulse in the conventional single mode fiber will get compressed, and you will get back the original pulse. So, accumulated dispersion is compensated and the pulse is compressed. How do you achieve this kind of dispersion? There is a design which is given by Tyagarajan in 1996, where they have used this dual core fiber, and this particular fiber gives you the effective index as a function of wavelength, something like this, which makes a turn somewhere here, and the curvature changes here, and because of the change in curvature at this point, you will have very high value of the second derivative of n effective, which gives you very large negative dispersion. So, you can achieve very large negative dispersion at a wavelength, okay. And the consequence of this is that with the help of this fiber, only a 300 meter long fiber can compensate for dispersion accumulated over 100 kilometers of CSF. So, with this I finish discussion on pulse shaping devices in an optical fiber link. In the next lecture, I would look into the sources and detectors for optical communication. Thank you.